Happy Monday, Greenspring. Like I said before, I'm your host, Avan Price, and I am a lucky man because I am on the show today with three young ladies. So we're going to discuss Black History Month and the importance of it and just equality and everything of that. So I have my dear friend, Evelyn Agyeiwaa, our CR coordinator. We have Loyce Craft, Pastoral Ministry manager, and then we have Joanna Shows, who is a Greenspring resident who's just going to give us her take and her interesting facts that she has witnessed over the years about equality, inequality that comes to race and everything of that matter. So welcome, ladies. Good morning. How are you today?
Thank you. It's
Thank
good
you.
to be here.
Yes. It's good to
Awesome.
be here.
So I thought for the first bit of our discussion today on the importance of Black history, we can kind of share our experiences with race and whether it's what you've seen happen for equality or inequality. So Joanna, do you want to start us off with anything?
Right. Well, several things pop into my mind, Avan. First of all, I think I should get the setting of where I was born. I was born in Idaho, and I didn't really grow up with black people as such. We had a prominent foot doctor in town, Dr. Foster, so I never experienced anything as far as any kind of prejudice about whether his sons would go to school or not. They were star athletes and so forth. So after leaving Idaho and going east to college in Kansas, that was when I came to a whole new world for me. And in many ways, because I grew up where anyone could go to a swimming pool, that kind of thing. But one thing in particular stands out with me involving with my years in Kansas, and I lived in Kansas from 1950 until 1960. And it was during that period of time that I had an awakening that literally changed my life forever. I went to college and married and became the wife of a professor at this liberal arts college. And we had, in our liberal arts college, we sponsored students from Piney Woods, Mississippi. And a young girl by the name of Mary Gatewood came to McPherson College as on a scholarship. And she became very involved in the college. She was very gifted and very talented. And then because I was teaching and had children, she became very involved in my home. And so as time went on, several incidences happened that I could share with you involving Mary.
Can you share with us just one of them?
But I'm going to share just the one right now.
Yeah.
It was time she had graduated from college, and she was going to Oregon to meet her fiancé and marry him. And so by then, all of us on the campus loved Mary. So 3 or 4 of us went together and bought a first-class ticket for her to take the train from Salina to go to Coos Bay, Oregon, to marry Thomas. We were all so excited. And to tell her goodbye, we were feeling, by then she had become so much a part of us. And when she looked at the ticket, she didn't say anything, but I thought something's not right, but I didn't know what it was. That's just how innocent I was about it all. We all were. So she got up on the train, and when the conductor on the train greeted her, we knew she was to go to that first class, and she wasn't there. And we waited, and we waited. Oh, maybe it seemed like forever, but probably a minute or so. And then the next thing we knew, we saw her in another car, standing there with tears coming down her cheeks, saying, "I told you so. I told you so." They would not allow her to sit in the first class. And so we tried to do something about it, and the conductor just looked at us, ripped the ticket apart, and the train pulled out. And when that train pulled out of the track, we all stood there sobbing. And at that given moment, if there's one moment in my life that I know from that moment on, I will never, ever, ever take for granted the rights of people, because I assumed everybody had the right to do certain things. So that's one of many stories.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, when you were talking about that, I've always commented my dad's from the south of Mississippi, so when we've traveled down there, he's taken us around different parts, and he was born 1965. And I remember one story. There was this favorite restaurant that we would always go as children called Triangles. This awesome burger place. And I remember one time he took us there, and he said of the story when he was a little boy with his mother, my grandmother, and they went there. And he said every time when he would go there, they were not allowed inside. So one time he wasn't thinking. Him and his mother, my grandma, walked in, and as soon as they walked in, they yelled at them, "You belong to go through the back. Do not come in, do not come in," and everything like that. So it was kind of like disturbing to hear of such kind of stories and things like that. So yeah, I can only imagine what that woman felt and seeing your friend having to go through that.
One of the things that, just to build on that real quickly, one of the incidences that we had with Mary living with us or being with us, she was going back to Mississippi to Piney Woods for Thanksgiving, and she said, "Joanna, may I make some sandwiches to take with me?" And I said, "Well, sure, but here, just let me give you some money and you can buy some food in the restaurant." Mm-hmm. And that was my introduction to where she said, "Oh no, I will have to eat out in the woods."
Yeah. Thank you for sharing with that. Well, I want to turn to you, Loyce, because here you are, a minister, and come from things from a much more spiritual side of everything. How do you see things pertaining to race and equality and everything like that? Do you want to touch upon that a little bit?
Sure. I think that I have witnessed a lot during my lifetime. And just a range of experiences, but there are a couple things that just kind of stand out in my mind in terms of those experiences. Having come from my birthplace of Athens, Georgia, yay, University of Athens, but having come from, that Georgia red clay, and just hearing the stories about my mom telling me about my birth, being born at a time where there was segregation in the hospital, born in an all-black ward, and so they kept all of the black women together. But just hearing those stories and seeing, some of it in the South, but not as much because we moved to Maryland when I was about 8 years old. And so moved into a setting that was much more diverse racially and then ethnically. But I think came to a place in my teen years where I had an incident that really, I don't think about it that often, but, in the context of this conversation, I was probably about 15 or 16 years old at the time and was on my way home from a friend's house. The neighborhood that I lived in at the time in Maryland was about, it was pretty racially diverse, but it was probably about 70 or 80% white. Had lots of white friends, had great friends, and so appreciated that experience. But was on my way home, and I remember, just this beautiful sunny day, just en route home, and was walking. The road was kind of split, so one way on each side of the road. And I remember walking and seeing this carload of guys, just slowly approaching where I was walking, and looking and, kind of wondering what they were doing because they were slowing down. And they slowed down even more, and then they came to a stop. Okay. And I heard a lot of laughter, and someone took something out, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but they took it out and they just sprayed it all in my face, and I was screaming because I didn't know what it was, and it was starting to burn. And I just remembered, and I heard them laughing, and they drove away, and they used the N-word, and I was running home trying to hurry up and get to our house, and I ran in the door screaming, telling my family someone sprayed something on me, I don't know what it was, and trying to just get it off of me. And I think it might have been pepper spray or something, to that effect. But I just remember, that was one experience. And what I like about that, in terms of how I feel about it and how I processed it, it didn't take root. That was an experience. It was real. It happened. But I didn't allow that to make me bitter. Yeah. And I didn't allow it to make me feel that all people are like that just because of that one particular incident. So You know, I can certainly appreciate, you know, people who've had, you know, very different experiences and how it makes them feel. But the worst thing that I could have done, and in terms of what I do now, is to let it take root in my heart and to have me become a bitter person because of it, because that was their issue, you know, that was their problem. Hopefully they grew up and they learned some valuable lessons.
Let's hope.
Yeah. But life is so much bigger than that. So
What I like about that story is how you said you didn't let it make you hate other people.
Right.
From that.
Right.
You know, like you, I grew up in a very diverse area. I grew up first in Woodbridge, Virginia. It's a very diverse area. Had whites, Latinos, Asians, a whole bunch of people.
Right.
So I love being around diversity and everything
Absolutely.
like that. So when I moved to my new high school when I was younger, it was kind of a switch because it was really just two races of people, of whites and Middle Easterns. There was very, very, very few blacks. Like I think in my graduating class, there was only like 5 of us.
Wow.
So it was very uncomfortable, and I never experienced anything to that level of treatment, but I do remember being ostracized a lot, just feeling uncomfortable. But I remember, you know, my parents always taught us that no matter what how someone treats you, don't let that control
Right.
and make that, you know, root in you to be angry and treat other people like that. Because those boys who did that doesn't mean all whites are like that.
That's right.
You just got to show love and compassion for everybody. It's not about holding in that hate and everything of that kind of nature.
Absolutely.
So that's what I love about hearing that story.
Thank you.
So Evelyn, how are you?
I am doing well. Yeah, and I think we've heard 2 wonderful stories here. Mine is somewhat different, and mine has been more so what I have heard and read in books and what have you, because I come from a totally different background. I was born and raised in Ghana, and in Ghana, all are treated equally, black, white, what have you, and being that my father worked in the banking system, I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of, you know, white people, but no one really distincted individuals in that way. But then when I came to America at the age of 13 was when I saw that difference. And like you, I too grew up in an area where there were fewer blacks, you know. And I think I was probably like one of the 3 people in my school that were Africans and a couple of blacks. But one thing that I found was that in classes and in interacting with people, you found that even though they didn't live it, and I'm saying our age group didn't live that, it has still embedded in them. And I think Loyce had mentioned something that she didn't allow it to root in her. And the reason why I say this is I had a classmate who at one point in a history class, and I think the teacher, who was white, made the comment that a lot of people allow themselves to be invested by what has happened in history, even though we are supposed to, you know history and learn from it. We are not to continue to live it. And I think one student who was also a friend of mine got really upset and said, "You do not know, you've never been in my shoes, so you wouldn't understand." And I didn't take offense to it, or I don't think even the teacher took offense to it, but then it got me thinking that why would she say that? Was she ever, you know, segregated in any way? But I guess maybe her grandparents or someone, and she has every right to feel that bitterness and that pain. But the other thing that I also witnessed was that there were classes where you will find only, you know, like I had a science class and I was the only black person in that class. And as you walk out of a classroom, there will be a class where you will find mostly males and most of them African Americans. And these male were told to be in classes where they weren't improving because they needed more attention or they weren't doing well in school. And I had the opportunity to sit with some of them and interacting with them. They were very intelligent, they were very brilliant, but to them, they felt like this is where they were always going to be, and there isn't really a need in branching out. So to me, it's somewhat not allowing it to take control of you, but also realizing that what happened in the past will only affect you if you allow it, you know. And so as I've aged and as I continue to learn more about people and interact with people of all colors, all backgrounds, it's not so much the history. It is what are you as an individual doing to, you know, say that I am black and I am proud of it. And everybody else around me is just the same a human being. And us all coming together is what unites us. You know what I mean?
Well,
So that is what I take from
I'm
that.
kind of curious, since I know you're from Ghana, that's a totally different culture, background, and everything like
Yes.
that. And just from different conversations we've had, how was it coming to America and kind of seeing kind of the racial tension? Or how is that? Is it different in Ghana?
Absolutely. Well, in Ghana, like anywhere else, you have, class differences. There are people who are educated, there are those who aren't. And most of the times, those who aren't educated will be, in the rural areas. But the difference between how you see race here in America and how you see it in Ghana is that it's more explicit here, where you see the pain, you see the anger, you see the frustration, whereas in Ghana, the individual knows that is where they've always been. Like, you want to think of the caste system. They knew that, that was where they always have been. No one put them in that position. Whereas here, an individual has made to believe or feels as though they were put in that position.
So they believe kind of like it's out of their control.
Exactly.
Interesting. This is just a question just for anyone to answer. What do you think causes different races to feel like they're in like a certain level and not see themselves as like a person that has the same opportunities as everybody else? Because I do have some family members who feel like, because, I'm black and I live in Mississippi or I live in Chicago, I feel like I'm always going to be at this level or that I'm never going to be there. What do you think that mindset comes from? You think it comes from society, or you think it just comes from bad parenting, or where do you think it comes from? Joanna?
I'd like to make a comment that I think this kind of fits in. I've become very involved here with black-white shared history, and I like to use the word shared because when you share, you communicate with each other. And the black-white history group that we have here really started because there's one lady here, Mabel Thornton.
Yep.
And Mabel Thornton has really been a spark of community for all of us. And that's why I'm sitting here right now. I'm really representing Mabel Thornton because what we're doing, meeting once a month with our black-white shared history, and we know that it's moved beyond that. It's to other cultures and so forth, but we're narrowing it down to black-white shared history because we each have our histories, but to share our histories, to see how much we have in common. And things have happened to us that we are who we are today because of what happened to us. So one of the reasons that I'm excited about celebrating Black History Month is to really remember the shared history we have, that people like Dr. Martin Luther King, who certainly my opportunity to have marched in that march was a defining moment, and we all have our defining moments. So that's what I think one of the goals that we had for today was to share our history, because we have a lot more in common than we have that separates us. And I think what separates us is when we don't understand and know each other.
That's a good point. I think that we focus too much on what makes us different and then seeing what makes us the same, that makes us the same like everybody else, but yet knowing that we are unique. I think we focus on too much of, what makes us different to keep us divided and everything like that. And I was thinking of, I think I shared before how when I was a senior in high school, I met with a counselor about college and everything like that, and she was really trying to get me to go to an HBCU school, or HBCU school, what basically means a historically black college. And to me, I mean, at first I was like, okay, that's kind of nice, but she was really adamant about it. Every time we would meet, she was very adamant about it, and that really disturbed me. And I was just like, why do you want me to go there? She's like, don't you want to be around your brothers and sisters? And I was just like, I get what you're trying to say,
Right.
but I've been raised to be around multiple different cultures. That would actually be a real bothersome to me, to be limited to like one color or one kind of race. That would really bother me, and everything like that. So I like to focus on what unifies us and what keeps us together and everything like that. Do you two have anything to comment on that?
I do. I think we can learn a lot. Part of this is talking about what what makes us unique, or what makes us all the same.
Right.
And so that's one piece of it. But I also like to celebrate our differences.
Okay.
Because I can learn from people who are different from me, different cultures. I'm fascinated by different cultures, and just hearing and listening. There was a friend of mine in high school that we were best friends, and we had a lot of things in common, but we would celebrate the things that made us different, and we kind of laughed about it because she is white, and we still have the occasion to talk. Many years later. But we used to talk about perming our hair. And it was so funny because I remember this one time I decided, I spent the night over her house, and she wanted to perm her hair, and so we were talking about, well, we perm my hair because we want to make it curly, and I said, well, we perm my hair because we want to make it straight. So I was trying to help her perm her hair, and we had the biggest laugh about it. But knowing that we are different, and it's okay. It really is okay that, and from my perspective, there is a beautiful rainbow. There's something special to me about having people who are white and black and Asian and Hispanic and every other color, Native American, every other color in between, because it shows you, I think, the tapestry of what we all are like, and that I can find something beautiful in everybody. It's not specific to one particular race or one particular ethnicity. There really are many things that we can listen to. Even cultural foods. I think it's fun to sample food from different cultures. You might gain some weight from it, but it's a lot of fun. To see how people do things differently, and to celebrate that. I think it's good, and I think it's healthy. We don't negate the sins of the past. We don't negate all the horrific things that have happened because one race felt that it was more superior, but we learn from it so that we won't ever do it again.
And that's the secret, that we study history to learn from history, to move on and not make the same mistakes again.
Right.
And I think that's why we're together here right now, is that we're all learning from each other. Things that we've done, just at Greenspring, things that we've done in the past, things that were pluses, that were minuses, and we're moving on. And I feel that so strongly, that, and this is why for me personally, to dedicate this being on the panel to Mabel Thornton has made such a difference in my own personal life and the lives of all who have met with her, because this is why we have this group that meets, a little plug in here, because we have a program coming up, but Black, White, Shared History. It's our sharing, understanding, learning, and enjoying each other.
Yeah, that's a good point, Loyce. I really like that you brought up about the celebrating differences. That's a real good point. And when you were talking about the hair, I was thinking, in the 4th grade, believe it or not, 4th grade, I had a big afro. Like, I let it grow out. It was like this big and everything. Yeah, I had the whole pick and everything. And I remember, I never went to school, though, with the afro. My mom would always cornroll it. So she always had it braided. But one day, I wanted to go in there with the afro. So, I took it apart on Sunday. So I came in like a Monday or something with the afro. Everyone was fascinated with my hair.
Yeah.
They were like, it's soft like a pillow. It's really big, and they were really fascinated. So when you were saying that, that totally brought memories to me.
The bigger the afro, the better. That's the way it was. You have this big.
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed having my afro. Had a big hair, had a comb and everything. You would totally be shocked if you saw the pictures that I had an afro.
This
then.
might be the time I brought the pictures of my 2 youngest
Yeah, tell us about your grandson.
The reason is it's mentioning that Corey is a senior, and you'll notice how clean cut he is and so forth. But the one I want to talk about is Anthony. Anthony has decided that he wants to have an afro. And so he's having a compromise with his mother, and so when they come now, I said, well, are you going to let it grow way out? He said, Grandma, I know how much I can have without getting everybody upset. And so this is Anthony with his hair. And so I just wanted to share this with you, that my long journey takes me down to just one of my comments about shared history is that my 2 youngest grandchildren are black, and that's another story for another time.
Yes, I see that we're coming down to our last 2 minutes, and I just want to just wrap it up with just saying, you know, the importance to me for Black history, for me as a Black male, I see Black history as what gives me confidence. As a Black male, be like, you know, my people have come through a lot of trials, and yet we still prevail and everything like that. But I think at the same time, Black history reminds us to, you know, kind of look at the other cultures. It reminds you to look what else is out there, you know, what other different people have contributed to our world and our society and everything like that. So we can just quickly go around the room and just say, what does Black history mean to you? You want to start off, Evelyn?
Yes, Black history means exactly what you said, just being able to, you know, enjoy the freedom that you have now because of what others fought for, and knowing that with that freedom you are able to do anything, but most importantly that the people around you matters, and in order to be able to help those people you have to have a positive mindset and then be one to bring change and, you know, positive outcomes to others.
Awesome. Loyce?
I think I'm very grateful for everyone who fought, everyone who struggled to give me the kind of life that I have today, and certainly on whose shoulders I stand. And it also allows me to celebrate the fact that I'm a woman, that I'm an African American woman, and that I'm a human being. So I'm, again, I think I'm just grateful, very grateful, and I teach my son the same, you know, to celebrate who you are, to see what is special about you, and then to also appreciate other people for who they are.
Awesome. Joanna?
Wow. I know I have about 30 seconds. I think I would like to say most of all what I appreciate, that we hold hands and we sing, "We Shall Overcome." Because I do believe with every part of me that love will overcome. And so with that said, I am just grateful that you're in my life.
Me too.
And I am grateful to have had the opportunity.
Join hand as well.
I feel like I want to sing.
Well, we don't. Y'all don't want to hear me sing. Y'all really don't want to hear me sing. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming on a Monday and coming down and discussing everything Black history and just equality and inequality and everything like that. I love having these kind of conversations, and just, you know, it's good to remember, kind of like you said, where we came from, so we don't make those same mistakes before. You know, loving ourselves, loving our differences, and then loving other people. That's really what it's all about, and that's what makes the world go around.
Yes.
All right, so let me just wrap up with a few announcements.